The big question for this segment is, what kinds of fragility do all complex structures hold in common? And what bearing does this have on humans in the near future? Unlike previous modules, which tracked the rise of complexity, this one is focused on its collapse. This is important to understanding complexity as a whole. Life teaches us lessons, but so does death. With every rise of complexity comes an increase in the number of pathways a complex system can follow. That includes an increase in the number of pathways that can lead us to destruction. The second law always wins. Organisms die, civilizations collapse, and even the universe seems set on a course toward heat death, with no stars, matter, infinitely approaching total thermodynamic equilibrium in trillions upon trillions of years from now. We teeter on the edge of a cliff, from which we seemed destined to fall. The immense fragility of complexity is derived from the basic principle that energy flows are required to survive and prosper. Without those energy flows and the structures to sustain them, everything breaks down. It is not just individual complex systems that are fragile, but the ecosystem or metasystem in which they operate, which is also extremely fragile. A complex system requires energy to sustain or increase its complexity. But when those individual systems are so good at finding that energy, they can destroy the fragile balance that allows other complexity to exist. This applies to humans and biological ecosystems. It also applies to reckless forms of finance and trade that can ultimately collapse an entire economy. What does this fragility have to do with the human race in the near future? Well, with our increased complexity comes an increase of evolutionary pathways, along with the increase of those that can lead to destruction. As multifarious as our paths are, they can be grouped up, however crudely, into 4 major categories. A technological miracle, where we continue to innovate at the same rate as the past 200 years and redeem ourselves from the current crisis. A green tech miracle, where we learn to live within our means without a decline in complexity or our living standards. A creative descent, where we live within our means, but our complexity and living standards descend to where they were 100, 200, or ultimately 1,000 years ago, but carefully guided without any catastrophic human crisis. Lastly, a collapse, a doomsday scenario which all of us are capable of imagining. That final scenario is the one that all thinking toward complex problems in the crisis of the Anthropocene ultimately intends to solve. In the next module, we shall look at some of the challenges that face us in the next century and beyond.